Stay where you are. Do not rush this moment. Breathe. There is a weight in your chest that words have failed to name. You carry it quietly, you always have. The world sees movement, progress, noise. But inside you, something has been standing still for a long time. You wake up tired. Not from work, from thought, from memory, from the constant effort of holding yourself together. You have learned how to smile without warmth, how to speak without being heard, how to survive without feeling alive. And still, you endure. That alone tells me something about you. You are not weak. You are exhausted. There is a difference the world rarely acknowledges. Pain does not always scream. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it settles in. Sometimes it becomes familiar. You tell yourself this is just how life is, that everyone feels this way, that complaining would be indulgent. So you keep going, not because you are hopeful, but because stopping feels more frightening than continuing. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." But right now it doesn't feel that way. Right now your mind feels like the very thing that is hurting you. Thoughts arrive uninvited. Regrets replay themselves with cruel precision. Fears predict futures you never asked to imagine. You fight them. You distract yourself. You drown them in noise. Yet they return. They always return. And slowly, subtly, you begin to believe that peace is for other people, that calm is a luxury you missed out on, that something inside you is permanently broken. Listen carefully now. Nothing inside you is broken. Something inside you is untrained. The mind is not a loyal servant by default. It is a wild force, untamed, reactive, hungry for control. Epictetus warned us long ago. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Not because reaction is easy, but because reaction is learned. You were never taught how to sit with discomfort. You were taught how to escape it. You were never taught how to question your thoughts. You were taught to obey them. So when pain arrived, you assumed it was truth. When fear spoke, you assumed it was wisdom. When sadness lingered, you assumed it was destiny. But emotions are not commands. Thoughts are not facts. Pain is not a prophecy. There is a quiet strength in realizing this, not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, like dawn. You do not conquer the mind by force. You outgrow its chaos through understanding. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Look at your life honestly, not through fear, not through memory, but through this exact moment, right now. You are breathing. Right now, you are alive. Right now, you are here. So much of your suffering lives in yesterday and tomorrow, places you cannot touch, moments you cannot change or control. And yet, you exhaust yourself trying. You replay conversations that are over. You rehearse disasters that may never arrive. You punish yourself for not being someone you think you should already be. This is not discipline, this is cruelty. Stoicism was never about emotional suppression. It was about clarity, about choosing where your energy belongs. Some things are in your control, your effort, your honesty, your actions in this moment. Most things are not. Other people's opinions, the past, the randomness of life. When you confuse the two, you suffer endlessly. The moment you separate them, something loosens inside you. You begin to feel space, not happiness. Space. Space between thought and reaction. Space between pain and identity. Space to choose and choice is where freedom begins. You do not need to fix your entire life tonight. You do not need a perfect plan. You do not need to become someone else. You only need to stop abandoning yourself. Notice how harshly you speak to your own mind. Words you would never dare say to someone you love. You should be better by now. Why are you like this? Everyone else is ahead of you. These thoughts pretend to motivate, but they only wound. A calm mind does not grow in a hostile environment. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. But strict did not mean cruel. It meant disciplined in virtue, gentle in judgment. You are allowed to be a work in progress. You are allowed to move slowly. You are allowed to rest without quitting. Strength is not loud, it does not announce itself, it endures quietly. Look at how much you have survived without becoming bitter. Look at how much you have felt without losing your humanity. That is resilience. And resilience is not built by comfort. It is built by staying present in discomfort without letting it define you. There will be days when the heaviness returns, when motivation disappears, when silence feels louder than noise. On those days, do not demand greatness from yourself. Demand honesty. Sit with what is without judgment, without drama. Say, "This is how I feel right now," not "This is who I am." Feelings pass, identities last. You are not your worst moment. You are not your lowest thought. You are not the voice that criticizes you in the dark. You are the one who hears it. That awareness is everything. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Mastery does not mean control over every emotion. It means refusing to be ruled by them. It means choosing patience over impulse, meaning over comfort, presence over escape. This path is quiet, uncelebrated, often misunderstood, but it leads somewhere real. Peace is not a rush of joy. It is the absence of inner resistance. It is waking up without needing the world to be different in order to breathe fully. It is knowing that whatever comes, you will meet it with dignity. And you will, because you already have. The silence does not mean you are empty, it means you are listening. There is a strange discomfort that comes when the noise fades, when distractions fall away, when you are left alone with yourself. Many people fear this space. They fill it quickly, with sound, with scrolling, with endless movement. But this space, this is where truth lives, not the loud truth of opinion, the quiet truth of being. You begin to notice how often you have been running, not towards something, but away from yourself, away from unresolved grief, away from unanswered questions, away from the feeling that you are not yet who you hope to be. So you stayed busy. You stayed distracted. You stayed tired. Because exhaustion felt safer than stillness. But now you are here, and you are still breathing. That alone is courage. Seneca wrote, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a living man." But there are many kinds of death, not just the end of the body. There is the slow death of authenticity, the quiet death of self-respect, the daily death of ignoring your own values. Ask yourself, gently, where have I been betraying myself to survive? Not with accusation, with curiosity. Where did you say yes when your soul whispered no? Where did you stay silent to keep the peace? Where did you shrink to avoid being seen? These moments accumulate, they weigh on the chest, they cloud the mind, and over time you forget what alignment feels like. Stoicism does not ask you to be unfeeling, it asks you to be aligned, to live according to nature, to live according to reason, to live according to what is right, not what is easy. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect." Now, being good does not mean being flawless. It means being honest with yourself first. There is a quiet power in saying, "This is not working," and choosing differently. You may lose approval, you may lose comfort, you may lose familiarity, but you will gain yourself. And nothing is more stabilizing than that. Life will still test you. Pain will still visit. Loss will still arrive unannounced. Stoicism does not promise protection. It promises preparation. You cannot control the storm, but you can strengthen the structure within. You do this by practicing presence, by returning again and again to what is in your control. Your breath, your response, your character. When anger rises, pause, not to suppress it, but to understand it. Anger often hides grief. Fear often hides longing. Frustration often hides unmet values. Listen beneath the surface. Epictetus taught, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Not what the world demands, what your conscience requires." This is not about becoming exceptional. It is about becoming whole. There will be moments when loneliness wraps around you tightly, when you feel unseen, unchosen, unimportant. In those moments, remember this. You do not need to be witnessed to be worthy. You do not need applause to be aligned. Much of the most important work happens in silence. In choices, no one claps for. In restraint, no one notices. The Stoics understood this deeply. They trained for obscurity, for hardship, for reality. They knew that character is revealed not in ease but in pressure. So when life presses you, do not ask, why me? Ask, what is this asking of me? Patience, courage, acceptance, letting go. Every challenge carries a lesson, not because life is kind, but because resistance is optional. Suffering multiplies when you argue with reality. Peace grows when you cooperate with it. This does not mean surrendering your values, it means releasing your illusions. The illusion that life owes you fairness. The illusion that happiness is permanent. The illusion that control is absolute. Once these illusions fall away, you stop fighting the current, you learn to move with it, and something remarkable happens. Your energy returns, not as excitement, as steadiness. You become harder to disturb, not because you are numb, but because you are grounded. Praise no longer inflates you. Criticism no longer defines you. Setbacks no longer shatter you, because your worth is no longer outsourced. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." So tend to them, not obsessively, but intentionally. When a thought brings peace, keep it. When a thought brings chaos, question it. You are not obligated to believe everything you think. This realization changes everything. Slowly, you begin to trust yourself again, not because you have all the answers, but because you are willing to face the questions. And that willingness is the beginning of wisdom. There is a moment, subtle and easily missed, when you realize the pain no longer owns you. It still exists, but it no longer defines the horizon. This is not victory in the way stories tell it. There is no explosion of joy, no sudden transformation. There is only quiet, a quiet that feels unfamiliar at first, almost empty, almost fragile. You may be tempted to fill it, to chase intensity, to create drama just to feel alive again. But resist that urge. This quiet is earned. It is the sound of inner resistance dissolving. You begin to move differently through the world. Less reactive, more deliberate. You notice how much energy you once wasted proving yourself, explaining yourself, defending yourself. Now you conserve that energy. You spend it carefully. Seneca observed, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay. Delay is not weakness, it is power." Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space, you decide who you are becoming. The world will still test that space. People will provoke, circumstances will disappoint, but you are no longer surprised by this. You expect resistance. You plan for imperfection. Marcus Aurelius woke each morning reminding himself that he would encounter selfishness, ingratitude, and ignorance, not to become cynical, but to remain unshaken. Expectation is armor. When you stop expecting life to be gentle, you stop being wounded by its rough edges. You become resilient not because you harden, but because you soften toward reality. There is freedom in accepting that some chapters end without closure, that some people never understand you, that some efforts go unseen. Closure is not something others give you, it is something you choose. You close the door by releasing the need for explanation. You say, "This happened," not, "This should not have happened." The mind relaxes when you stop arguing with facts. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." This is not resignation. This is clarity. You focus on what you can shape, your habits, your boundaries, your integrity. You stop trying to manage impressions. You start managing yourself, and in doing so, you become dependable, not predictable. Dependable. You show up even when motivation fades. You act according to principle, not mood. This is rare. This is strength. There will be days when old patterns knock again, when self-doubt whispers familiar lies, when you feel the urge to escape into old comforts. Do not shame yourself for this. Habits fade slowly, like shadows at sunset. Each time you notice the pattern and choose differently, you weaken its grip. Progress is not linear. It is cumulative. Small acts of discipline compound quietly. A deep breath instead of an outburst. A walk instead of rumination. A boundary instead of resentment. These choices build a life no one else sees at first. But you feel it. You feel the steadiness in your spine, the calm in your voice, the clarity in your decisions. You are no longer chasing happiness. You are cultivating peace. Happiness is fleeting. Peace is durable. Peace allows joy to visit without clinging. It allows sorrow to pass without drowning. You stop asking life to make sense. You start asking yourself to make meaning. Meaning is created through action, through alignment, through living in accordance with your values, even when it costs you. Especially when it costs you. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." You are being strengthened, even when it feels like you are breaking. Trust the process you are walking through, not blindly, but patiently. You do not need to rush healing. You do not need to announce growth. You do not need to be understood. Your life is not a performance. It is a practice. And with practice comes mastery, not over others, over yourself. There is a deeper calm waiting beyond this point. Not the calm of comfort, the calm of acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approval. It means clarity without resistance. You stop asking life to bend. You learn how to stand. This is where many turn back, because acceptance feels like loss at first, like letting go of hope. But it is not hope you release, it is illusion. The illusion that the past could have been different. The illusion that others should have acted better. The illusion that fairness is guaranteed. When these illusions fall, something steadier takes their place. Reality. And reality, though imperfect, is workable. You stop carrying anger like a badge. You stop replaying injustice like a ritual. You stop reopening wounds that have already taught you their lesson. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Not louder, not crueler, not hardened, just different. You choose dignity over reaction. You choose restraint over spectacle. You choose silence where noise once lived. This is not submission. This is sovereignty. You begin to feel rooted, unmovable in quiet ways. People may still misunderstand you. They may project their fears onto your calm. They may mistake your peace for weakness. Let them, their interpretations are not your responsibility. Epictetus reminded us. If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses, but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone." There is humor in humility. There is freedom in self-knowledge. When you no longer need to appear flawless, you become untouchable. You know who you are, and you know who you are not. That boundary is powerful. As this inner steadiness grows, you notice how differently you experience time. You are no longer rushing to escape the present. You are no longer dreading the future. You are no longer trapped in the past. You arrive, fully, simply, now. Moments slow down. Conversations feel clearer. Silence becomes restorative instead of threatening. You begin to appreciate ordinary things. A breath taken deeply, a meal eaten slowly, a walk without urgency. These are not small pleasures, they are signs of presence. Presence is the foundation of peace. Seneca warned, "Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future." You do none of these now. You remember without clinging. You plan without obsession. You live without fleeing. There will still be pain. Stoicism never denied this, but pain is no longer an enemy. It is information. It tells you where you care, where your values live, where boundaries are needed. Instead of asking, "How do I avoid pain?" you ask, "How do I meet it well?" This question changes everything. You stop numbing, you stop hiding, you stop Ending strength means silence. True strength is composure under pressure. It is emotional honesty paired with discipline. You allow yourself to feel, but you do not let feelings drive the wheel. This balance is rare and hard-earned. You will not always succeed, and that is acceptable. Failure does not undo wisdom, it refines it. Each misstep becomes a reminder, each stumble becomes instruction. Marcus Aurelius spoke to himself gently. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. not to create fear, but to sharpen focus. Time is limited, attention is precious, so you choose carefully where to spend it. On growth, on integrity, on becoming someone you respect in solitude. This is the final reward Stoicism offers, not admiration, not comfort, self-respect, the quiet confidence that comes from living in alignment, from knowing that, regardless of outcome, you acted with virtue, and when the world grows loud again, as it always will, we'll return here, to breath, to clarity, to yourself. There comes a moment when effort softens into ease, not because life becomes simple, but because you no longer resist its complexity. You still wake up to uncertainty, you still carry responsibility, you still feel the ache of wanting things to matter. But now, you are not at war with it. You move with a steadier rhythm. You no longer sprint away from discomfort. You walk through it. This is maturity, not age, not experience alone. The ability to remain present when things are unfinished. You begin to understand why the Stoics spoke so often of endurance, not as grim persistence, but as quiet loyalty to one's principles. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." You practice this now, imperfectly, but sincerely. When joy appears, you let it be. You do not cling. You do not fear its ending. When sorrow visits, you allow it space. You do not dramatize it. You do not make it permanent. You have learned that emotions are guests. Some stay longer. None deserve ownership of the house. This understanding changes how you treat yourself. You stop demanding constant productivity. You stop confusing rest with laziness. You stop measuring your worth by visible outcomes. You honor effort even when results lag behind, because character is built in repetition, not applause. There is a humility that settles in you now, a softness without weakness, a firmness without cruelty. You no longer need to dominate conversations. You listen more than you speak. You speak only when your words add weight, not noise. Silence becomes one of your strengths. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, Eventually, you stop waiting for permission. Permission to rest. Permission to change. Permission to live differently than expected. You realize no one was ever meant to grant it. This understanding does not arrive with fireworks. It settles quietly, like a truth that has been waiting patiently for you to catch up. You stop asking, "Is this enough?" and begin asking. But you hold outcomes lightly. You give your best effort, then release the rest. This frees you to enjoy the work itself, the process, the becoming. You begin to find meaning not only in success, but in showing up with integrity. Some days will still feel heavy. Some nights will still feel long. Stoicism never promised constant serenity. But now, even in difficulty, there is a quiet trust beneath the surface, a knowing that you can endure without losing yourself, that you can face pain without becoming it. This trust is earned and unshakable. You no longer fear being alone with your thoughts. You no longer dread silence. Silence has become a place of return. When the world overwhelms you, you come back here, to breath, to perspective, to the present moment. You remind yourself of what matters, of who you are choosing to be. Then let this be where it settles, not with a final answer, not with a perfect conclusion, but with a quiet understanding. You were never meant to escape life. You were meant to meet it with open eyes, with steady breath, with a mind trained to see clearly, and a heart disciplined enough to remain humane. You have walked through pain without becoming cruel, through confusion without surrendering your values, through loneliness without losing your dignity. That matters. You do not need to be remembered loudly. You do not need to prove your worth to a restless world. It is enough to live well, to act justly, to endure with grace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you have trouble getting out of bed in the morning, remember that you were born to do the work of a human being, not to impress, not to accumulate, but to live in accordance with reason and virtue. And you are doing that now, quietly, steadily, imperfectly, which is the only honest way when the mind grows restless again. You will return to this place, to the breath, to the moment, to the choice, and you will remember. Nothing essential can be taken from you. Nothing external can complete you. Nothing temporary can define you. Only how you live. Only how you choose. Only who you become in the space between impulse and action.